Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Shared Voices podcast, brought to you by the ESOP Association's Wisconsin chapter. In this podcast, we talk all things ESOP. We hope to educate and even entertain here and there. No promises. I'm your host, Rob Birmingham. I am general manager for employee-owned metal fab company called Technical Metal Specialties in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Our company was purchased by an ESOP called EOM about 2 years ago, and I've been with the company for about a year. So myself and pretty much my whole company is brand new to this ESOP thing. So therefore, I've really started my journey to find out as much as I possibly can about what it is and what it means to be employee-owned. This podcast is a very big part of that journey, and I invite you to come along with me as we learn from our very knowledgeable guests. This is Shared Voices. Hi there, employee owners and other guests. Welcome to episode 1 of Shared Voices podcast. This one's entitled ESOP Advocacy, Protecting What We've Built. We have some very smart guests on today. Ariana and Kelly are here from our Wisconsin chapter advocacy committee. Hi, ladies. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you.
Why don't you guys introduce yourselves quick?
Sure. I'm Kelly O'Shea. I manage the supply chain at Century Equipment. Century is a 100-year-old company. We've been in ESOP for 40 years, 100% employee owned, and we are a global manufacturer of engineered, made-to-order sampling solutions. We protect the world and everybody in it.
Awesome. Well, I am Ariana Bodenbach. I'm the Vice President of HR with Hallmark and also the Vice President of Advocacy for our Wisconsin chapter of the ESOP Association. Hallmark is actually not 100 years, Kelly, but 50 years. We've celebrated over 50 years of business, and we have been in ESOP for the last 6 years. So still learning in this process, but we are a national company. We are a wholesale distributor of building materials.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So today we're going to talk ESOP advocacy, what it is, why it matters, and how you can make a difference. I will always be fully transparent with my amount of knowledge or lack thereof on this show. And I'll be honest with you, this particular subject I know very little about. So can't wait to be a sponge today and sop up some of this knowledge. So yeah, we're going to talk advocacy 101, why it's important, how to get involved. You guys ready?
Ready.
I am.
Awesome. Let's dive in. So first and foremost, I guess a good place to start would be, how did you guys first learn about ESOPs and what they mean for employees?
Well, I can kick that off. Well, Hallmark actually was a minority ESOP starting in 2010. It was a small percentage of our business, and honestly, it wasn't a super exciting thing. We weren't really ingrained in the culture, and we didn't really know what an ESOP was, admittedly. But it wasn't until we decided to transition to becoming 100% in 2020 that I really started to take a deeper dive and realize what it really means. And I'll never forget the day Joe, our founder and CEO of Hallmark, was like, okay, we kind of need someone to champion, and Ariana, you're going to do it. And I knew nothing about it and was like, all right, here we go. We're just going to jump in the deep end of the pool and figure this out. And here we are 6 years later. And, we've accomplished a lot and obviously continue to learn every single day. So it's really something super exciting to be a part of. It has been quite the journey to become an employee owner of your company. But really, I wouldn't have it any other way.
How about you, Kelly?
Yeah, mine's a little different. So we've been in ESOP for 40 years. I've been at Century for almost 20. So when I started, we were well established. So it was just part of the education and the culture from day one. But it is definitely a journey. I've been continuously learning what it means to be employee owned and how it can benefit, and then sharing that with other employee owners. There's, we talk about storytelling and employee ownership, and I have multiple stories I could share. So that it's just a continuous journey of growth and really letting people know it can benefit you in so many ways, and you are saving for your future, and your only contribution is showing up and doing your job every day. Like, how huge is that? So that's really, why I'm a huge advocate for employee ownership.
Fantastic. All right. Another question then, kind of along those lines. What does being an employee owner mean to you guys personally?
Well, as you look at that, I mean, I think it can mean a lot of different things to different people, right? But at the end of the day, as we look at it, we all have this vested stake in our companies. And, would you treat it differently if you were an owner, if it was yours? And that reality is there when you are part of an ESOP and you're an employee owner in your company. So you make decisions as if you were the owner. And it forces really your employee owners to think about everything that they're doing and be conscious of expenses and decision making and just things that we do every single day. And that's something that's really rewarding. And when you really think of the invested interest that you have in the company when you become an owner of it, it just changes things fundamentally. So, as you look at that, but then also what this can do for you and your family. Being an employee owner of a company has its benefits when you think of wealth building, right? And what it can do for you and your family long term. And that's something that I'm super grateful to be a part of.
Yeah, it's similar to what Ariana has said. And also just that continuous improvement mindset that employee ownership is so strongly linked to. Not only can I improve myself and benefit from it, but at the same time, I'm also improving my company and all my coworkers and our future. So my future and our future. And yes, it's obviously financial, and that's a huge benefit, but just personal growth as well is really something that being part of an employee-owned company has allowed me, and I appreciate very much.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about advocacy, which is a word that I had to practice. Look, it screws up other words in the sentence too. I had to practice enunciating just to have that roll off. But in your own words, how would you explain, I guess, simplistic terms, what advocacy is?
So advocacy is a word that I also can stumble on pronouncing sometimes, but really it means to protect and grow employee ownership. So as employee owners, we know the benefits of employee ownership, how powerful it is. And it's our responsibility to educate on employee ownership. We educate our fellow employee owners, we educate our community, but we also need to educate elected officials. There's so many things coming at them every day, so many issues that they are thrown in their face that they should be concerned with. And so they may not know a lot about employee ownership. So it's our responsibility to educate them in order to sustain employee ownership.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the only thing I would add to that is that, as you look at the term advocacy, it shouldn't be a scary word, right? I mean, we as employee owners are just making sure that the policies are working for us and not against us and protecting this amazing benefit that we have the privilege to have. And just this idea that you can advocate as an individual. We're not lobbyists, right? We're not lawyers. We are just passionate employee owners that care about the ESOP community and protecting the ESOP community and us as employee owners in our companies.
Very cool. So I heard sustainability. Why do you think advocacy is important for sustaining employee ownership?
There's so many forms of businesses and ownership out there. And in order to continue and grow employee ownership, we do need to advocate for it and educate our elected officials because it affects our taxes. It affects how our company is valued. And it also has legal ramifications as well.
Ariana, anything to add or not on that one?
As I look at it, I mean, yes, for sustained employee, everything that Kelly shared, but like anything, it's just something that we have to keep top of mind, right? We have to keep it in the front. And it is unique in the fact that, you go into some of these offices and in this world of politics and things that can get highly controversial, ESOPs are something that everyone can get behind. It doesn't matter, what side of the aisle you're on, which is a very unique topic to be able to walk in there and discuss. So I think that that's really important to keep in mind when you're coming in there, is that this is a refreshing topic and people can relate to it and make sure that it's something that everyone can get behind.
Love it. All right, let's talk about what's at stake here. Why should employee owners care about government policy?
That's a great question. And similar to what Kelly had just shared kind of in the last question, but as we look at this, right, and for some of us, our ESOP is our most valuable asset, right? We're truly building wealth for generations, and that is something that we have to protect. You're protecting your equity and your livelihood. It's on the line. And our ESOPs are shaped by federal tax policy and retirement plan rules and the Department of Labor oversight. With all of those factors into it, it is something that we have to continue to make sure is being managed appropriately, and that the things that are being decided at a government level aren't having a negative impact on our companies and therefore us as employee owners.
Thank you. How about an example of a policy change that could directly impact our ESOP?
Okay, so that's a great question, and it's something that I get asked a lot. Is what are we, really advocating for? What could possibly happen? And a simple answer to that is when you look at the tax treatment of ESOPs. For example, as a S corporation ESOP, you are able to operate without paying federal income tax on the percentage of your company that is in the ESOP. If something like that were to change, it would significantly impact cash flow of our company and the overall value of this benefit for our employee owners. So when you take a look at that, alone, that could fundamentally change how a company is able to operate and the value of all of our ESOPs. So, as you look at just the different tax advantages and, the different policies that factor in with the valuation guidelines and rules, or, capital gains, more ownership transition incentives, retirement plan regulations. There are so many different facets that tie into this that can have a big impact. So, really keeping a close eye on those is critical to preserving the ESOPs for the company.
Yeah. And sustaining them, like we mentioned earlier, allowing companies that are looking into possibly becoming an ESOP, having, loans or different resources for them. That also plays into this as well. So it's really it all plays into the bigger picture of sustaining ESOPs.
And also allowing companies to grow. I think as I look at Hallmark, we're a perfect example of that. We became a minority ESOP in 2010. As we flash back 2009, 2010, not a good time for anyone really, but certainly really not a great time in the building industry. But becoming a minority ESOP at that time allowed us to take advantage of that federal income tax amount that was not being then paid to that, and reinvesting in the business and reinvesting in our economy, and then allowing us to grow. So, you think of something like that, if a benefit such as that was changed, or a policy like that was changed or taken away, it would drastically affect how our companies are able to grow.
Yeah, very significant. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about why you guys got into advocacy specifically. And, I already hear a lot of passion in everything that you guys are saying, but I'm sure that when you first got in, you didn't understand a lot of what you're talking about here, of the stories and the effect that it has on our ESOPs, the whole 9 yards. So what made you want to, get active?
Yeah, it'll be almost 6 years ago. I went to the National ESOP Association conference in Washington, D.C., and I was just a representative from Century Equipment, and they were doing an advocacy academy. It was, I believe, the first year that they had put this on. And my company said, yep, you know what? Try that. So we had no idea what to expect, signed up. I learned so much in that training day. And then the next day, I was able to go to Capitol Hill and put it into practice. And I thought, wow, this is really just a wonderful opportunity. The training it calmed me. I don't know a lot of specifics about bills and legislation that's being, presented. Could be a little daunting to most people, including me, but it really put us at ease, let us know just some bare facts, we were given tools so that we could share with our officials and their staff. So that's how I first got involved with advocacy. And at that conference, I met some great people that I still am active with in the ESOP Association. And I ended up signing up to be part of the Wisconsin chapter, and I've been on the advocacy committee ever since.
Yeah, very, very similar to Kelly. Not as long, though. I started this journey just a few years ago, but I knew I wanted to get involved with the Wisconsin chapter. Coolest chapter ever, by the way. And I wanted to find out a little bit more about what advocacy means, right? I mean, no different than how we're talking about this right now. What does it even mean? What does it involve? And so I also attended Advocacy Academy at the national conference, and then had the opportunity, like Kelly, to go to the Hill and be a part of that experience. And it was a really awesome experience, honestly. It was just very cool to go there and meet with our elected officials and truly feel like you're making a difference and really hopefully moving the needle a bit. So when I came back, obviously I was a part of the ESOP committee for a very short time. And then I was surprised with a call from Jason Wellman asking if I'd be interested in taking over the VP role. Because Jean, who is my predecessor and has done some phenomenal things for our chapter on the advocacy side, was going to be ending her term. And I said, why not? Let's jump in. So here we are. And, obviously we've done our advocacy days at a state level, which is really super rewarding, as we look at the great state of Wisconsin and the things that our chapter's been able to do for advocacy.
Excellent. All right. I heard both sides of the aisles in there, some politics kind of getting involved. It doesn't matter, which side that you are, to advocate, that's for sure. It sounds like, but, I'm not I tend to duck and dodge the news. I know it's not good to have your head in the sand, but things are just so divisive nowadays. So I guess somebody like me, that's not all that political, not interested in such things, I guess, what advice would you give somebody like me when it comes to advocacy?
I think as you look at this, we mentioned that in this world, in this very interesting political climate that we have going on, as I mentioned earlier, it's just very, I think, refreshing to be able to come in with a topic that everyone can get behind, right? We're coming in, we're talking about specifically at the state level, keeping Wisconsin businesses in Wisconsin, right? Keeping Wisconsin constituents employed at Wisconsin businesses. That's something that we can all get behind. And so it's a very refreshing topic to be able to walk in with. And they are our elected officials, right? They are elected by us. It is their responsibility to adhere to the people that have voted them in. So they want to hear from us. They're always very willing and open to sit down and have discussion, and as well as their staff. And we really are the most effective advocates of the ESOP community as employee owners. So they would much rather hear it from us, straight from us. So that's why we really try to focus on pairing constituents with their elected officials. We try to really be strategic with that so they can hear it directly from the people that voted them in. And at the end of the day, it's really not about knowing policy. And I think that that's a common misconception of this, is that it becomes very political. That's not what this is at all. When you walk into an office and you're having this discussion, yes, of course, there's some asks that we definitely prepare the teams with, or at the national level that they prepare us with. But it's really about telling your story. It's about telling your story as an employee owner, what employee ownership does for you, what it does for your company, what it's done for your family, and why it's so important. And that's really what they want to hear. That's what they're going to remember. It's not about talking about the policy piece of it. It's about you as a person and what it's done for you. So that really is kind of fundamentally the biggest thing, is that it's not truly about laws or policies. It's about your story and sharing that, and that is what you're going to leave them with. So you don't have to be super political to advocate.
Yeah, I reiterate everything that Ariana says, because I think that's the most daunting part of it, that they do not want to speak to an elected official. They do not feel comfortable with the policies. They feel that maybe they don't know enough about them to speak to them. But it's important to remember that, again, you're the constituent. They want to meet you. They want to hear from you, and they just want to hear your story. And we all have a story to tell, each and every one of us.
Fantastic.
And they're people, just like us. I mean, we at our state advocacy day, we walked into my district representative, and he was kicked back in his chair with his cowboy boots up on the desk and said, "Hey, come on in, let's talk. We're brainstorming." And, we chatted and took some pictures, and it was very, just like you were talking to your next door neighbor. So try to put people's mind at ease that you don't have to feel uncomfortable coming into the room.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, all right. So again, put yourself in my shoes. What are some simple steps, maybe some first steps that I could take to start to support advocacy efforts? I heard this thing like EOANs and stuff like that. So tell me
Yes.
all the things.
Good job, Rob. Good
Thank
job.
you.
So, you can start, super simple and, gradually get bigger and bigger. We don't want to, make it seem like this is a very daunting thing. As you mentioned, the Employee Ownership Action Network is something that's super simple to join. We always share the QR code at our conferences. You can join it on the TEA website. All it is a group that will automatically send you updates. So that way you can know what is going on in the ESOP community. And then it also, if there is a need to get support, whether that is at the local level or the national level, they make it really simple. They'll send out a notification where you can click on it and share your support. And that helps this initiative immensely. So it only takes a minute or two to join. That's probably the easiest thing that you can do, to kind of stay up on the topics. Obviously, of course, you can join a state chapter committee, go advocacy committee, or any of our other wonderful committees that we have at the state level. But really, as we look at it, engaging with your elected officials, and even better, hosting them at your company. That is something that we as the advocacy committee can help with. It is not a daunting task, as we have said several times. I mean, they are just people. They want to come and meet with their constituents. They want to come and meet with the businesses that are within their areas. So having them come, having them see what employee ownership is all about and how your companies work, and talking to your employee owners is not only good for them, it's good for the morale of your company. It's very rewarding to be able to feel like these elected officials have come to your company, and it's really a very positive experience for everyone all around. Also, as Kelly and I mentioned earlier, we kind of got our start with attending Advocacy Academy in DC. There's always a discount to attend that portion, and then the conference following in DC. So very rewarding experience. You get a lot of information from the national team to kind of help prepare you for going on the Hill, which is a great experience. And then obviously we also have, as I mentioned earlier, our state advocacy day. This is something that Wisconsin was the first to do. We host our Wisconsin State Advocacy Day and go to Madison and meet with all of our elected officials. And it's been a super rewarding experience for our chapter specifically.
Very cool.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that advocacy should be at your personal comfort zone. So whether you're an in-person, you want to go to the Capitol and meet your officials, or you're more comfortable sending an email. It really is whatever your personal comfort level is. And again, to stress, people should invite elected officials to their businesses. It is a huge benefit, not only to employee ownership, but to your company as well. So it is not difficult. Century has hosted many elected officials over the years. And as Ariana said, the advocacy committee is here to help you. It's easy.
Excellent. All right, let's get back into storytelling. What's an example of an ESOP story that has been shared with a member of Congress that made you feel an impact?
One really struck me, and I actually got tears in my eyes when I heard it in the elected official's office. This gentleman from rural Wisconsin was sharing his story. He works, the factory floor, and his family had done that same type of work. His parents, his uncles, his aunts, and he told us that he will be the first person in his family to actually retire. I think a lot of us assume when you get to retirement age, if you make it that long, you retire. And that was not the norm. He had never experienced that. What an impactful thing to hear, that someone actually gets to retire. They're the first one in their entire family to be able to do that.
Very
So yeah, that.
awesome.
Yeah, and one story that is very personal to me. is an experience that I have shared visiting at the elected officials' offices. And then also I shared when I gave written testimony and verbal testimony for some of the state legislation here in Wisconsin. We had an associate at Hallmark. She had worked with our company for over 40 years. And sadly, she was diagnosed with ALS and was forced to retire just due to her deteriorating health. She was not of retirement age. However, because of how our plan design was, she was able to take a diversification out of her ESOP. And she was able to use those funds to get 24/7 care in her home until she sadly passed. For me, is despite being a part of this process and really championing this, that for me was what I really saw how life-changing this benefit can be. Because without this benefit, she probably would not have been able to afford to do that. And she also would not have been able to leave behind a very healthy 6-figure legacy to her family after her passing. That is where I was like, wow, like this is amazing. And although it's not the ideal scenario of what you want your employee owners to be able to use those funds for, it does show how it can truly impact the lives of them and for generations to come. And that is something that will stick with me for forever.
Well, I kind of know the answer to my next question because now I have goosebumps. Why do you think that stories resonate with elected officials more than just facts alone?
It's that personal connection. I never met Ariana's coworker, but we all know people who have been diagnosed with terminal illnesses at a young point in their life. Right? So it really, it's just that the story resonates with everyone.
Yep. It's something that they're going to remember is, I don't envy their jobs. I'll be totally honest. They have a lot coming at them at one time and not a lot of very enticing topics sometimes, I'm sure. So just to be able to come in and just have some, deep personal connection with their constituents is something that they're going to remember, right? They're not, they get so probably caught in some of the minutia of the day that hearing true personal stories is something that hopefully they'll go home and think about and remember as they're going through all of the other things that are on their agenda at any given day.
All right. Thank you guys for that. Let's talk about fun and fulfillment, some of my favorite things. I'm going to give you guys 2 for 1 now. So I guess what's been the most rewarding part of participating in ESOP advocacy for you guys? And how does being involved in advocacy deepen your connection to your company and coworkers?
Sure. So, at a very basic level, I've met a lot of great people that I am still friends with. So something really simple right there. Anytime I get to, be working and improving my company, right? Growing Sentry, but I'm also getting to grow myself, as I mentioned before, but also make some friends and have some fun. So that is going to be right there. That's a very basic one. But then it is important to tie back to Sentry because what I do at these conferences, at advocacy days, on the committee, I have firsthand knowledge and I can take that back to my fellow employee owners and share with them so that when we have events and we meet, let's say we recently met our board of trustees, they were more knowledgeable about employee ownership and they could ask questions. So it helps everybody grow and benefit overall.
Awesome. How about you, Ariana?
Well, I think as Kelly said, as we look at it, we like to have fun. We have to have fun first and foremost, and the Wisconsin chapter likes to have fun. But that said, we get down to business. We want to do our part, and I think as you look at, that's probably the most rewarding thing is not feeling like I'm not only contributing to my company as an employee owner to Hallmark, but also to the greater ESOP community. And doing what my part and hoping help preserve this benefit for generations to come, which of course then helps deepen my connection to the ESOP community, all of the other companies that we have the amazing opportunity to network and work with and have fun with. And then obviously also my company, just to be a good steward and feel like I'm doing my part.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. In closing here, if you could tell every employee owner just one thing about advocacy, you've said a lot today, but if you could just tell them one thing about advocacy, what would it be? Kelly, if you want to start.
Sure. So I think, get involved. It's important. Something as simple as check out, join LinkedIn, the Wisconsin ESOP chapter, right? That will be a great way to get involved. That way you can stay up to date with what's going on and you can be aware. And then if you do have time to do more, you'll know when and how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Kelly, I think I would just say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it. Every time we have this conversation with someone and they kind of attend an event or, they host someone or whatever the case is, they always come back and say it was not as scary as I thought it was going to be, or that was actually super easy. So we can't emphasize that enough. We're here to support you. From the advocacy committee perspective in the Wisconsin chapter. So don't hesitate to reach out with questions because it is just extremely important. This is, arguably for some your most valuable assets, and it's something that needs to be protected. So we all have to do our part to make sure that is done, not only for us, but, for the future generations to come.
For sure. Well, thank you very much to you both for taking the time to be part of episode 1 and sharing all the knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Everybody, keep an eye out on that LinkedIn page that Kelly talked about because episode 2 of Shared Voices will be coming out very soon. So bye for now, but we'll see you soon. This has been Shared Voice.